What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Career Mode. This is episode number 84, and I'm old. Yeah, obviously yesterday the video I released, most of which I was sort of sentimentally chatting about my 20s coming to an end at midnight today, and like seriously, to follow on from yesterday's video, wow, like seriously, 20s on YouTube, and now officially my final video is a 29-year-old that's gone. I'm now in my 30s, and I don't feel any different. I'm just going to be totally honest. I thought I was going to wake up this morning and feel totally different. Nope, not one bit. But we'll see how long that lasts anyway. But anyway, starting today's episode off on the back with a draw against AC Milan. It started turning around after a tough start to the season, to be fair. Only 2 wins in our first 5 games, I think it was. But now starting to get it clicking a little bit. We've had our first win in the Champions League away in the Czech Republic against Slavia Prague. And now in the Serie A, whilst we did slip up to Milan. I say slip up, whilst we drew against the league leaders Milan and missed a chance to go top of the table. We've definitely stopped the rot in the league as well. We are still undefeated, but we are now starting to string some wins together and get results consistently. So first game, trying to get back to winning ways here away against Empoli. Really tough game, this one. I don't know if you guys are the same as me, but I'm finding in the Serie A, like, the goalkeepers are, like, ridiculous. I mean, maybe it is just me, I don't know, but it certainly feels that way. Donnarumma's made some big saves for me this season and cost me a couple of goals, to be fair, as well. But the opponent goalkeepers I've faced have been unbelievable. No exception in this game. Gianluigi with a couple of big saves for me on one end, and on the other, Silva made a couple of big saves to keep Empoli still tied at 0-0. Thankfully, we would break the deadlock through you-know-who. Dusan Vlahovic's 8th goal in as many games, opened the score after a quick little cutback, and then he got the assist for our 2nd goal as Ranocchia came off the bench to make it 2-0. I was so excited to use Vlahovic for the first time. I mean, he literally is just a complete forward. You know, 6'3", tall, strong, quick, agile, great balance, great technique, great composure, really, really high shot power, and of course, most importantly, a clinical finisher. And I think, to me, sometimes, like, I mentioned before, like, I'm a massive perfectionist. I think I've said that in the last episode, actually. I'm a massive perfectionist, and my brain has this weird way of doing things where the first thing I look for in something is a flaw. And I know it's not a negative, and it's probably one of the reasons why it's definitely cost me in terms of, well, happiness and also finding love as well. But the first thing I look for is a flaw. Like, the first thing I look for is a negative. The first thing I look for is a weakness, because in my mind, it's always been, once I identify that, I can improve that and I can try and get it up to scratch. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I'm so harsh on myself. Maybe it's one of the reasons why, again, I can never find true contentment and fulfillment, because I always see a weak spot in either my life or an aspect of myself or whatever else. And I hate to say it, but it's true. Like, when I'm, in the finest of details, in the most, meaningless of things, I still find a way to look at it in things like FIFA, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this player? Until I say what's right with this player, I think what's wrong with this player. And anyway, the point I'm making here is, with a striker like Vlahovic, the reason I was so excited to use him is because there isn't really anything wrong with him. There isn't really anything that's bad about the guy. Are there things where, other forwards are better than him? Yeah, of course, But, of course, is there anything that sticks out like a sore thumb? Not at all. And that's why I was so excited the first time to use Vlahovic. I was thinking, will I be as good with him? I've been even better. 8 goals in as many games and a few assists as well. This guy is a complete forward, and the big reason why we won that game 2-0, and why we're still chasing Milan, looking for top spot in the Serie A. Anyway, following game, and it's Celtic away in Glasgow. Match day 3, Champions League group stage. Lost on the opening game at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Bounced back in the Czech Republic against Slavia Prague. It was a really tough game, and I needed 2 late goals to win it as well. Now taking on Celtic away. Well, I scored 3 goals in the first half, and this was the sort of performance I was waiting for in the Champions League. The group was drawn. I said after last year, I'm saying nothing. We were 45 minutes away from getting knocked out in the Champions League group stage, and I don't want to come across as arrogant or anything like that. As I always say, I don't think I'm a very good player at FIFA. I think I'm above average, but not a very good player. But I can't remember the last time I got knocked out of a Champions League group stage. We were so close last year. We were 45 minutes away from that happening. So this year, I knew that I couldn't take anything for granted, even when the groups were drawn. And after losing on match day 1 and scraping through on match day 2, I was quite worried heading into this game. Thankfully, it turned out I had nothing to worry about. Yep, finally, I had a really, really dominant performance where I was almost flawless, if you will. I was 5-0 up after a couple of late goals in the second half, and there was 7 minutes to go. I didn't just score a 6th, but as you'll see in just a moment's time, after Saul gets our 6th, I'd also get a 7th as well. I shut the door on Celtic, didn't give them a chance whatsoever, played every single counter-attack pretty much absolutely perfectly. The quick offloads in this game, as you'll see for a few of the goals, were really, really well timed. And Weston McKennie, who sort of ran the show in this game, got our 7th goal in an absolute demolition job. And this is my biggest win in FIFA 23 so far. Yep, 7-0. Soule with 2, 1 for Keane, a brace for Chiesa. And McKennie got 1 as well in a dominant victory. 7-0 the final score, and that is my biggest win in FIFA 23 so far. For those that are curious, my biggest ever win came in FIFA 14, I think it was, and I was managing Spurs. I can't remember what team I was facing. I wish I could remember, but I can't. But I won it 9-0, and I won it 9-0, and that is the biggest win I've had in FIFA ever in all the years. But that one there against Celtic is up there as one of the very biggest wins I've had, and the biggest win in FIFA 23 so far, 7-0. But ever the perfectionist. After the game I was thinking probably could have got to 8, you know. Probably could have taken another chance in that first half there. But even so, big win, and no doubt about it. Finally now, after a pretty rough and rocky start with Juve, I must be honest, started the campaign off, and yes, we won on the opening day, but it was, pretty unconvincing, to be fair, against Fiorentina. And then we drew against Salernitana on match day 2. Again, I said earlier, we had 2 wins in our first 5 or 6, but it was quite a tough start to the season. Lost the opening game in the Champions League group stage as well. Really tough beginning to the campaign with Juve, as to be fair I was expecting, taking over a side who last year finished trophyless, no identity, had to totally rebuild the side, form an identity. I often talk about it, sometimes it takes a while for teams that have had a lot of incomings to gel. I mean, we're seeing it this year with Nottingham Forest, for example. What was it, 20 signings for Nottingham Forest in this summer window. They're not going to, play with the cohesion like a team that's been developing for years and years and years. It's a newly promoted team with an absolutely ridiculous amount of turnover in terms of incomings, but also outgoings as well. Of course, it's going to take time for them to gel, and they have started to pick it up a little bit in recent weeks leading up to the World Cup. But even so, same with Juve. I know it's going to take some time to gel, but finally we are now clicking and heading to the following game, looking to make it 3 straight wins in all competitions. Oh, how about this? Yeah, right before the break in the first half here, Steven Bergwijn had got a couple, but also had this man Vlahovic. Oh my goodness gracious me, it reminded me of Richarlison's goal in the World Cup just last week. I mean, that will go down as one of the best World Cup goals we've seen, in recent World Cups. The technique, the composure, the flair, absolutely glorious from Richarlison. No less than we'd expect, of course, from such a sensational forward, but even so, that goal really reminded me that Dusan flicks it up in the air like Richarlison did, and then acrobatically turns it in for our 4th goal. All of our goals come in the first half. Did lose our clean sheet in the second half, to be fair, but a pretty comfortable win there against Parma with 4 in the first half. Bergwijn with a brace and Vlahovic with a brace as well. I often find, for me, if I've got a 3-man attack, there's always one man that never seems to be the big guy. I've talked about this before. It's like the big 3 in in basketball. I talk about this all the time. It's always there's one player, even though the big 3 obviously are the main 3 players. There's always one player that's just not quite as good. In the Heat's era, you had LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, and then there was Chris Bosh, and then it's and there was for the Cavs when LeBron left, LeBron and Kyrie, and Kevin Love as well. Or the Warriors pre-KD, you got Curry and Clay. And Draymond Green's really good as well. And for me, there's always one man when I've got a 3-pronged attack up top who doesn't quite get the credit as the others do. So right now it's oh man, Chiesa's so sick and Vlahovic is unbeatable. Bergwijn's pretty good as well. And that was one of those games where the 3rd man who never quite gets the praise shows what he's all about and why he's still so important to Team Bergwijn with a brace in that first half there, and I possibly could have got him a hat-trick, missed a chance in the second half. But even so, won the game 4-1. So following game here, Torino, first Turin derby of the season since taking over Juve. Of course, you'll remember if you've been on my channel for a while, I did a Torino career mode back in FIFA 15. I was sick, absolutely brilliant career mode. So now, of course, taking on their cross-city rivals, if you will, taking on away from home in our first Turin derby of the season. And right now, I'm finally starting to click with this Juve team. Yeah, it took me a while to get going. I'm not going to deny it. I really stumbled out of the blocks with this Juve team. Really struggled in the first few games, but now I'm finally starting to click, and most importantly, I'm scoring goals at will. I mean, seriously, like the front three is the same front three, you know, that Juve had, but like for me, like this is an attack that should be scoring more goals than I started off with, but now I'm really starting to click and tearing teams open. Back-to-back games where I score 4, but this time I keep the clean sheet. Yep, 4-0 away in a Turin derby, and don't you just love it when you got, you know, like a numerous goals, but the completely different goal scorers, you know, like 4-0 the final score, but all 4 were different goal scorers. I love it when you see that, a real team display, 4-0 the final score regardless, and a great win to make it 4 straight for Juventus. Finally, we are clicking, and for the first time this season, we have gone top of the table. We have top scorers in the league now, joint best defensive record, but the top 3 only separated by goal difference, and the top 5 only separated by 3 points. I said it before and I said it again, the Serie A is one of the most competitive leagues in Europe, and it's one of the reasons I love it. There's a long way to go, and I'm not taking anything for granted. But that was this episode of CM, guys. Big thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you hadn't, please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you for the next episode of Career Mode very soon.